Welcome, everybody. This is the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley. Welcome. You have found your way to our program for this week. Every week, we try to bring you stories of people who are working to change the world and just make it a better place, locally, globally, and digitally. And to do that, we are meeting once a week, but we meet asynchronously. As a Rotary Club, Rotary clubs around the world, they meet regularly, they share ideas, they look to improve their communities. And they have somebody come and speak. But in our club, which is both online and asynchronous, we record these fascinating people we find and then slot them in for future meetings. So we are recording at the tail end of February 2022. And those of you who are watching this recording as part of our meeting can know how different the world may be at that point. Hopefully not so radically different, but there you go. But with that, we celebrate what it means to share stories of improving communities with other Rotarians around the world. 1.2 million members of Rotary International and 36,000 clubs. And so it is a pleasure for us to be able to bring great stories to you. The story today is from Hakeem Subair. You read his introduction coming in, so you already know a little bit about him, and you're probably intrigued by this title, 1 Million Teachers, which he's going to tell us about, and all the work that he is doing to make education all the more powerful in places that you may or may not have visited. And we're going to get to hear a little bit about. Hakeem, it is such an honor to have you here. I am happy to hand it over to you. Take it away.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rushton. What a great pleasure to be here. I have Rizma, but she's a co-founder for 1 Million Teachers. We operate out of Ontario. Because of COVID, we don't get to travel as much as we normally do to be in the places, but we do have teams in all the places. Today, 1 Million Teachers supports teachers across 18 countries. And as our name implies, that is our mission over the next few years to be able to train 1 million teachers. What that looks like, I'm just going to walk you through. Hopefully, we will finish in time and then I can take questions. But the title for my presentation today is really talking about the insights that we have gained from the work that we are doing, and we wanted to be able to share that with you. I won't dwell too much on the problems. We know the problems, I think most people, but fundamentally, this is, we have a teacher problem all over the world, and it's not about quantity alone, there's also the quality of teachers. However, some areas are more affected than other areas. And as you know, Sub-Saharan Africa, where 1 Million Teacher currently focuses on, has the biggest issues when it comes to education. This is also the region that has the youngest population, the fastest growing population, that has the least ability to cope with the issues that we're talking about. So if you want to start, you say start with the low hanging fruit, the ground zero of the problem. So that is the reason why we focused on Sub-Saharan Africa, starting with Nigeria, which is the most populous and where we think has the most challenges. And I'll explain why, hopefully during this presentation and when we're in the Q&A section. So that is what we seek to do. We ask ourselves, what are the main challenges? And what we see is that beyond training, there is a fundamental problem about motivation. But first of all, we want to make sure that every teacher that comes into our space, they not only have the skill set to be able to do a good job to enhance student learning, but for them to have that focus on professional development. So this triple challenge that we have is, first of all, how do we close this gap in terms of number of teachers and the quality of teachers? First, with attracting them, and I'm sure you probably have heard all kinds of stories from that area where people even hear that you want to be a teacher as a career, and even family members, well-meaning, are like, why would you want to be a teacher? Do you want to sign a pact with poverty? And all of those kind of issues. So there is that where teachers don't feel like, or people don't feel like they should go into that profession because they don't think it's edifying. It doesn't give them status in the society. They don't have money. So how do we attract? And how do we ensure that those that we have attracted continue to develop themselves, making sure that they even have the training in the first place? Remember, I talked about quality, I talked about quantity. So it is this that helps us to meet the gap. But most important is we work with many teachers who earn lower than $50 in a month, and they have families. So you are telling somebody, hey, it would be nice for you to be professionally trained, for you to be there, to focus on lifelong learning, and all of that. And they're asking you, how does that translate to bread on the table for me and my family? So that, when we were doing our needs analysis and needs assessment and whatnot, that was one thing that, kept reverberating in our head from all the conversations we've had. And we said, so whatever we do, we have to make sure that it is incentive-based. We have to motivate these teachers. So that's our triple challenge. And so how do you start? We're talking about huge issues. I talked about the gap, the stats from UNESCO, 69 million, 2030, Sub-Saharan Africa, 17 million. How do you even start? If there's a problem, you have to come up with solutions to deal with it at scale. So that's why the leveraging technology can significantly help, because first, it can be really, really more cost effective, drive down the cost to train as many people as possible. And I'll tell you about the limitation of even that technology as we go along. So that's the starting point for us. How do we onboard as many teachers as possible into this program? We pretend like even those who went to teacher colleges and all of that, whatever it takes, all the curriculum that anybody requires to at least make some kind of difference in the classroom, that they have it. So that's where this first stage is, which is phase one. But we go beyond that. And that is where the keeping them motivated and empowering them and all of that comes through. So we said that's the journey to empowerment. The Black Belt program itself, which is our signature program, aims at helping us achieve that objectives. So beyond training, that they go through all of these belts that you see, white belt, yellow belt, orange belt, and then they get to black belt. The black belt itself is in 3 levels. So we have the first dan, second dan, third dan. And we do that with all of these opportunities by providing it to these teachers to ensure that they have that focus on lifelong learning. So that is really, really the summary for us. And this takes, the online component is asynchronous, it's self-paced, they can learn, they get support from our technical team. But what happens after phase one, which is the journey to empowerment, is very hands-on. We are actively involved in their professional development through various means, some of which you see here. So what does empowerment look like really? Just like any other professional, you're asking yourself, I want to be able to confidently say, I'm an engineer, I'm a doctor, because I have the training, because I know that the work that I do matters, and all of that. But we also wanted to do it in a way that lets communities solve their own problems. Let teachers solve their own problems, not only in their classroom, but in their community. So when we say homegrown, self-sustaining, that is what this is all about, where people start from white belt, which is, in Latin, we say tabula rasa, starting from a clean slate. And then you go through that progression, you become black belt. But that awareness that, learning never stops. And then you go, even though we call you black belt, but we're really saying you are back to white belt, because then you know that the more you know, the more you realize that you don't know. And this whole process is what we hope to create as many empowered teachers as possible, so that they become leaders, not only in their classroom, in their schools, but in their community. And just a few pictures here in various places. The 1 Million Teacher Program focuses a lot on empowering women, female teachers, not only making sure that they're the best in their classroom, but they also begin to take the well-deserved role as educational leaders in their own right. And so these are just pictures across some of the countries that we work, mainly Sub-Saharan Africa. And, but there is an approach. There is an approach with which we work. And it is really recognizing that everything is part of a system. And the danger, especially for development work, which you most likely are also aware, is that sometimes in solving a problem, we inadvertently create another problem, So we're saying that, see, rather than trying to like, oh, this is just about teacher training, but there is a whole ecosystem. There are school leaders. There is even government, there are the students themselves. So those are all of the things that we take cognizance of. And every day we begin to see gaps in our programming. And we look for various partners to work together to fill those gaps, one of which is the Queen's University in Canada. And there are a few other institutions like that. What does this all mean to us, really? It's really about working with this kind of approach, working with various partners to create this program, novel pedagogy, making sure that teachers have what they need. In the beginning, I talked about we leveraging technology. However, we've encountered significant problem. You want to work with the most vulnerable communities, yet you find out that the communities who need help the most, you can't reach them because there's no power, there is no electricity, there is no internet access. They live in conflict situations. There are many staying in refugee camps. How do you really reach the people so that we don't become like everybody in some development situation where we're all take the cream, we're working with the cream, you know, but there is a deeper problem. So we're looking at the last mile. How do we reach these kids? How do we reach them through their teachers? So this is something that I wanted to share with you, talking about insight, you know, and I know there's very many well-meaning projects, you know, one laptop per child and all of those things. But we know that there is only so many people this can reach. And then that's kind of how we started this learning hub model, where we train teachers to work in communities, particularly in communities in the situations that I've described, with almost no access to internet, no electricity. But we also know how powerful it can be, even in the midst of nothing, no technology, nothing. If you have capable teachers, they can make a whole lot of difference in the life of the kids. So that's really what the focus is all about. And then in this kind of situation, we almost have to discard all of the technology and everything else that we're doing. We say, hey, maybe we should go to the fundamentals. Let's use the paper and, you know, just as basic as it gets. And that's kind of made us start this learning hub model. Some of the pictures you see here, we have situations where teachers work with some of these kids under the tree. There are actually no classrooms in some of the situations. And these are the people that we feel like most that needs the help the most. So what are we doing in this situation? First of all, for most of these kids, particularly with COVID, they've been out of school. In fact, some of the pictures you see here are from Nigeria. Nigeria has about 10.3 million children out of school. And then COVID has exacerbated the situation. So when you have that, you have to think about ways to make it work. So what we did in this situation was to create home learning kits, focusing on basic numeracy, basic literacy. Let them even know how to read and write, first of all, and then let them know how to do basic addition, basic subtraction, basic division, basic multiplication. So that's really what it's all about. And then we have these manuals for the teachers. So rather than the teachers who work in this community, we don't have access to online, we created a PDF version of the teacher education manual, which they used. And that's what we are using to support them. And then the home learning kits for the students. It's been really, really interesting. I'm very mindful of time. I don't want to go beyond the time that is allotted. However, this just gives you an insight into some of the big issues that we're dealing with, because when you leverage technology, you are able to spread the cost to many, many people. But with this situation, it becomes really expensive to reach kids. You have to print the books, you have to do that. And this is one of the teachers telling us about the situation for one of the girls, that her uncle took her home learning kit, basic numeracy, basic literacy. And the question for us is, how can we find the resources to print as many of these workbooks for these kids? How can we find resources to print as many of these training manuals for these teachers as possible to reach them in this situation? So that's really what I wanted to talk about today. And my hope is that sitting here today, we will be able to reach more like-minded people, like the people in Rotary, to be able to support in this work that we're doing, so that we can support these most vulnerable children in these communities. So, thank you. I wasn't checking time, so I don't know how long I took.
You did just fine, Hakeem. What a great presentation. Thank you very much. If you want to go ahead and stop sharing, we'll introduce the group that we've got on the recording. and start into the questions. So here in the United States, we have Melanie, who is in Michigan. Melanie, feel free to wave right there. We also have in Mexico, we have Heather, our friend from the Eugene Metropolitan, Rotary Club of Eugene Metropolitan. Another member of our club, our ambassador in Morocco, Imad. Imad, thank you for staying up very late to join us. Kudos to you for that. And then in Ontario, we have our speaker, Hakeem, and his co-founder of 1 Million Teachers, Rizma. And so it is a pleasure to have both of you with us today. My name is Rushton Hurley. I am the programs chair of the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley, and I love getting to talk to interesting people like Hakeem. So with that, Heather, why don't you start us off with the first question?
Thank you, Rushton. Thank you, Hakeem, for your presentation. I was wondering if you could circle back to the 69 million with UNESCO. Could you tell us a little bit more about that? And I'm wondering if I misunderstood. Are you trying to bridge that gap, or where are those numbers?
Yeah, so that is UNESCO's estimate. So we want to do something about it in our own way. So that's why I said the triple challenge. How do we close the gap? So if we achieve 1 million teachers, hopefully it's 1 million teachers plus, then we would have contributed in our own way. And but currently we're focusing on sub-Saharan Africa, so the target is 70 million. But I think if we hit 1 million, that'll be good.
Fantastic. Could we have Rizma and Hakeem tell a little bit about how you met in order to start this? So what was the I don't know, the conversation that happened on the back of a napkin or whatever it was that made you decide this is what we're going to do?
So we were both at Queen's University doing our masters in innovation, and so I am from Nigeria. My family, we used to own a school. So, and I used to work in the bank, so I had no background in education whatsoever, teaching, but I was also a business consultant. And then my wife was looking for a school for her daughter, so she was always on call. She's a doctor. And that's really how we got involved from daycare, that we felt that we could do better on our own. That eventually became a school. So I found myself being drawn into the issues at the school. And it eventually got to, hey, we have teacher problem. And that's kind of how it started. So when I came to Canada, when we relocated, the school eventually essentially fell apart. But you know, these things never leaves you. It's like haunting you. So I was in the program with Rizma at Queen's University when I was presenting about this issue that I wanted to help to work on. And Rizma just came to me one day and said, I'm from Pakistan. We have this kind of issues where I'm from in Pakistan, so I can relate. How can we work together? And that kind of how we started since then.
Like Hakeem said, I'm from Pakistan, and I was actually working on another idea at that point, which was also helping immigrants coming into Canada. So basically easing their way and their transition into the Canadian culture and the atmosphere. That's what I was working on even before I heard about Hakeem's idea. But I've always wanted to work on a mission-driven business, I'll be honest. But I wasn't able to put my finger on what kind of a mission-driven business it should be. I wanted to work on something which is really impactful. And funny enough, it was not even 1 million teachers when Hakeem and I met. It was easy learning
Access education, yeah.
education,
Access
exactly.
education.
So it was a bit different, and I actually learned about it mainly through another friend who was working with Hakeem on this idea, and she's from
Bangladesh.
yes, she's from she's from
Bangladesh.
Bangladesh. Sorry, she's from Bangladesh, and we were like in the same building, and she started talking, and I was like, I need to meet Hakeem. We need to connect, and we need to have a discussion about it. And I remember our discussion went really long, and we started talking and pinpointing out the problems in both the countries, and we like, you know what? Let's stop. It's just two different countries, different people, but the problems are exactly the same. Maybe the one country has a bit worse, but we're on the same level. We need to actually work together on this. I am actually on this, Hakeem, with you if you say even you're saying no. So we're working together. So that's how we actually got involved. And, ever since then, we're working on it. And same here, I don't have any educational background as well. Never thought I will be in something which will be related to education, but I think it's a mission driven and it's impacting millions of lives. So I just love it.
So thinking about the work you did, Hakeem, you went through several slides fairly quickly about the different countries where you are working. But I'm curious, where has that been most where you've had the most momentum with your work? I mean, is it Nigeria specifically, and if
Yeah.
so, why there? What is it that's happening in Nigeria that has made it so that you've been able to get that momentum?
So the first of all, we were not as ambitious as we are now. We wanted to start from somewhere, and they said always focus on your immediate, the low-hanging fruit. As a former school owner myself, I knew a lot of, I had a lot of contact in the education space in Nigeria. But generally, we talk about when you want to start, you pick a beachhead. So Nigeria was our beachhead, and we kind of started there because you can't be everywhere. In fact, most of the countries that we found ourselves, it wasn't by any grand design or anything like that. It was people reading about us and reaching out. Hey, I want to work with you guys. Hey, I'm in Sierra Leone. Hey, I'm in Cote d'Ivoire. How can we, so that's kind of how it started. I was like, well, I mean, we're leveraging technology anyways, at least for the first phase of the program, and the fundamentals are the same. So why not? So that's really how it started. So the bulk of it is still in Nigeria, places like Kenya, Uganda, Ghana. So that's really where it started. Just recently, we have, smaller countries like Lesotho having teachers. We don't even know how they find us, really.
All right. Well, I'm curious also about the BELT program. How did you build the different levels of the BELT program? What was the process that led you to create the Black Belt program?
Well, I mean, first of all, the fundamental is that learning never really stops if you really want to improve. And we also wanted to gamify the whole experience. We wanted people to get excited that, oh, wow, I'm done with these courses. And now I have my belt, and then I can download my certificate. I can print my certificate. It's just that excitement. We needed to give people something to win, to get them excited over. So, and then we worked with Queen's University to say, okay, so this is a curriculum. As for somebody who is just coming into the profession, what do you need to really say, oh, I have what it takes in terms of learning to be a teacher? So that was really the starting point. And then, okay, you need classroom management, you need this, you need basic literacy, you need basic numeracy. So it's really like you come into a university and you say, oh, you have to have 40 courses in order to graduate. So that's really it. But we now had to like break it down into various belts for various levels of difficulty. I'm in a meeting. That's my son, sorry. So yeah. So for various levels of difficulty, and then we said, okay, how about if we took from karate as some kind of analogy, and karate has different belt systems. So your white belt, you're just a beginner, but when you say you're a black belt, there is some kind of respect that comes with that. You walk taller, people respect you. They don't even dare try you because they know like you have what it takes. So that's really it. And we also know for karate, they have that. Even when you become black belt, there are different layers of black belt. But we wanted the teachers to know that even when you get there, the people who know the most are also the people who are humble enough to know that they don't know much. And that humility makes them want to learn more. So that's really why we designed that way, just to create that excitement.
All right. How many teachers have gone through the program so far, and how many have made it to black belt?
So right now, everybody that we've supported through this program is just over 31,000 teachers. So it's funny because if you look at what we've done in the last quarter, is almost as much as what we did in our first 2 years. Mm-hmm. So like momentum is building. It's getting, getting more and more exciting. We estimated that those who would achieve black belt will be maybe about 0.5% of the population when they begin the journey. It's not easy to accomplish. I mean, you really have to be committed, you have to be dedicated, and you have to be willing to invest your own time and money for data at least. So we know that, but what we have seen, what the data is telling us is now we have a higher percentage. I think the last time I checked last month was about 1% of the total population. So with all the incentives that are coming into the program, I think we might be having maybe 3% average getting to black belt by mid this year. And then maybe next year up to 5% of it. And that is okay, because we wanted to be in a position to provide opportunities to as many teachers as possible, as many people who need it. What they do with that opportunity is really up to them. So the black belt are the people that we really spend the bulk of our time in. That's why we say that the core of our program is that black belt program. Yeah.
And is the element of getting to join the black belt program, is that something that typically takes a long time? I mean, how long would you say does the average black belt take to get to where they are?
On the average, about 4 months.
Okay. Right.
We've also seen some high achievers, like really intense. Like somebody say, oh, I've been spending 14 hours per day for the past 5-6 weeks, and I made it. We've seen those people, and it's really scary because we always encourage them, like, well, you have access to this platform. It is for life. So go back. There is a whole lot of reflection questions, but I think we're happy with that level of enthusiasm from those people. But typically, it's about 4 months. Yeah.
Was there any barrier to getting the program going that you hadn't anticipated? I mean, really just kind of a surprise that turned out to be a bit of a struggle, and then perhaps a strength. Yeah,
you would think that when you come up with something like this, first of all, we even the most affluent of our clients, it's $150 or thereabouts, now to access it. And these are the courses that some people typically in North America, Europe, or anywhere else will probably pay $200 to get a certificated course to do. So you have about 40-something courses, about 42 modules, and you're getting it lifetime access for something like this for that amount. You would think that people will just, rush to you and roll out the red carpet, but that's not the situation. In fact, the people that needed the most, that some of the most skeptical people ever, and for various reasons, right? And you can't blame them if you know the situation that many of them have gone through. It's the least of their worries. Yet they needed the most. Really surprising.
All right, well, I'll hand it back to you for a final word in just a minute, but I'll wind things down, and then we'll keep talking to you. And that's one of the big perks of being part of these recordings, is that we get to keep talking to these wonderful people that we get to meet. All of you who are joining us today, thank you for being part of this. Thank you for being part of the recording, and those of you who are watching the recording, thank you for taking an interest in what we do here at the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley. We'd like you to do two things for us. So as you scroll down the meeting page a little bit farther, you'll find the attendance form. Please let us know you are part of it. It helps us to kind of know where people are joining from, where they're, what kind of comments they have as well. And we have a space for that. That is our forum at the bottom of the page, the Discuss forum, DISQUS. And you can leave comments there. What did you think of this program? What did you think of other elements of the meeting? What do you think of other people's comments? This is one of the ways in an asynchronous club that we share ideas with each other. And we hope that you will take part in that discussion as we go. As we always like to do, we hand it back to our speaker for the final word. And so, Hakeem, I hand it back to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Roshan. Thanks, everyone, for listening. So we look at the education ecosystem. We look at all the players, the decision makers, policy makers, head of schools. And there are key elements of it in terms of ready learners, having school input, having effective teaching, having curriculum that aligns, and having coherence in policy. We know, and the research supports it, and I don't think there's any argument anywhere in the world that of all of this, if you were to pick anything closest to a silver bullet, it is the effectiveness of teaching. And we think that if the world complains about lack of resources, if we can channel our energy in one thing and do it well, let's focus on teaching. So my call to action will be to invite everyone to join in that mission so that we can make a difference in the life of the kids. This work is a means to an end, and the end is enhancing student learning outcome so that they can be meaningful contributors to the society that we all want.
Excellent. And as always, you'll find a little bit more about how to learn more and get involved at the links just below the recording on the page. We will see you next week.